It's time for Mac Stories Unwind, a podcast that's all about the picks. Hosted by me, John Voorhees, and Federico Viticci of MacStories.net. Hey, Federico, how you doing?
Hey, John. I am doing fantastic. How are you?
Very good, very good. I think, it's good that we mention our names once in a while because I think there are a lot of people who are discovering Mac Stories Unwind for the very first time who may not actually even be your traditional Mac Stories readers who know who we are because of the tech stuff that we cover. And this show's all about our media picks. And we've got another joint pick because we're both very into something right now.
We are both very much into Horizon Forbidden West.
Yes.
So it is time for another joint pick on Unwind. Now, I need to say something about Horizon Forbidden West and Guerrilla Games, the company behind Horizon in general.
Mm-hmm.
These folks, they make a fantastic video game series, but my God, do they have bad luck in terms of releasing these games just before a major new game that everybody wants to play is coming out. I am referring, of course, to the fact that the original Horizon Zero Dawn came out on PS4 just a few weeks before a little thing called the Nintendo Switch and another little thing called Zelda Breath of the Wild came out. And I, along with many other people, you included, our friend Mike Hurley included,
yes,
millions of other people around the world included, I believe, we went through this experience where we started Horizon in February 2017, and in March, we dropped it because we got obsessed with the Nintendo Switch and Zelda Breath of the Wild, only to never catch up and finish Horizon Zero Dawn again, right? That was the case for you as well. Then, fast forward 5 years later, Horizon had a DLC called The Frozen Wilds on PS4. Mm-hmm. It received a PS5 patch for the original game to have better performance, but now the new one is coming out. But the problem is Horizon Forbidden West came out 1 week before this game called Elden Ring that is coming out.
Everybody is losing their minds over in the game press, right?
Yes, Elden Ring is the new game by From Software, so the makers of the Dark Souls series and all of the, the so-called Souls-like games. So Sekiro and Bloodborne, obviously, all these games that have been highly praised for the past decade, really, for their, unique mechanics and how unforgiving they were. And sort of the overall, they have created a sub-genre, basically, with the Souls games. And Elden Ring, everybody is talking about it for a couple of reasons. It's From Software's take on an open world approach that is very much inspired by Breath of the Wild. There was also the collaboration of George R.R. Martin, the creator of the what's it called? The Song of Ice and Fire book series, basically Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, right?
You know the guy. So I wanted to be fancy by name dropping the book series, to earn that clout from people. So he collaborated on the world of Elden Ring, on the main story and the lore behind it, but also. It's this highly anticipated game for PS5, Xbox Series X, and PC. So all the whole crop of new consoles is going to be, it's going to have native versions of Elden Ring.
Let me ask you, Federico, I know that you have said that you were planning on playing this game, which is not, I don't think, the kind of game that you typically play. But
never played one before.
Mm-hmm. Right. Given how deep you are in Horizon Forbidden West, are your plans still to play or not?
Okay, so here's the core of my problem right now.
Mm-hmm.
Elden Ring is currently the number one game on Metacritic. Metacritic
is it really? I didn't look.
Yeah.
And
a 97 average as a score. Metacritic aggregates scores and opinions from hundreds of video game websites and publications, And it is right now, I believe, the number one video game of all time, best scored on Metacritic. And everybody is saying this is likely game of the year material. This is the best game From Software has ever made. Like, reading the reviews right now, I get the same vibes I got when Zelda Breath of the Wild came out. Basically, every journalist been in agreement, like, aside from a couple of glitches in the graphic department, this is a masterpiece. And now, when that game comes out and it captures the cultural zeitgeist,
yeah,
it's very hard to say no.
It is very hard to say no.
Right?
I really do feel bad for Guerrilla Games. I mean, this with that kind of score, it's really hard to compete with that.
But I will say, I am very into Horizon right now. The story captured me, and playing the game on PS5 is incredible. So
it's a very deep game. You've got a ways to go, I'm sure. I know I do. I mean, there's a lot to explore in Forbidden West.
Yeah. So that being said, let's try and break down Forbidden West in maybe 3 major areas. So story, how we're playing the game, and the gameplay itself, what you can expect from Horizon, and why we are enjoying it so much. So for the story, I am going to spoil the ending on the first one here, so skip ahead a few minutes. So I didn't finish the first Horizon. I never finished Horizon Zero Dawn.
Neither did I.
I dropped off at about 60% of the story because the new one was coming out, and I wanted to jump right into the new one because everybody was saying this is much better than the first one. This is what the original Horizon should have been. And I figured, I'm probably just going to catch up on the story by watching a summary, like a story recap on YouTube, and reading some articles about it. And that's what I did. I watched the story recap on YouTube. I watched multiple ones on YouTube, and I got the gist of it, and it was fine. So to recap, in Horizon, you play as Aloy. Initially, she's an outcast of this tribe called the Nora. You may say, why tribes? Well, the world is in this sort of post-apocalyptic scenario in which humanity, as you know it, is extinct. The events of Horizon Zero Dawn take place like 5 centuries from now or something, far off into the future.
Right.
Maybe it's even the year 3000, actually. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. But they're ruins. They're ruins of the past civilization.
There are ruins of the past. And essentially, to recap what happens quickly, these robots that were originally intended to aid the population of Earth in fighting climate change, that's very, very, very modern topic. Yep. These robots eventually they develop their own intelligence. They become self-aware, and the company that makes these robots also figured that there was more money to be made into making war machines rather than climate change machines. So if you combine the two things, war robots that become self-aware, that's a recipe for disaster. And so the humanity, these original events are these are set in our current era. So humanity develops this strategy called Zero Dawn that, thanks to a team of scientists led by this doctor called Elizabeth Sobeck, they realize, okay, we are gonna be killed. Every one of us is gonna die. The human race will go extinct because these machines have taken over. There's no saving us at this point anymore. So what do? They accept that machines will destroy Earth. Elizabeth Sobeck and her team, though, they come up with this strategy that involves Zero Dawn, a program that will recreate life as we know it, but by assembling this reboot program of Earth, basically. She develops this system called Gaia that is a computer program, a computer AI that contains 7 subordinate functions, each of them named after like an aspect of Greek mythology. So there's Hades, there's Hephaestus, there's Apollo. It's the kind. Is there Calliope? I think there's also Calliope in there somewhere.
It's a very, very Federico name.
Very Federico name. So essentially, they developed this system before, before they locked themselves up into these bunkers, these underground bunkers, and they developed this Gaia system, and the Gaia system goes online. The Gaia AI takes over the machines, converts the machines to be these robots that basically they feed themselves on biomass, and they help into rebuilding Earth. And each of the Gaia functions as a separate task. So, for example, there's a program whose sole job is to recreate the atmosphere. There's another program that needs to recreate animals. There's another program that needs to create more machines. And there's Hades. Hades is the program that is supposed to keep an eye on Gaia. So Hades is a failsafe, basically. If anything goes wrong with Gaia, and if anything goes wrong and the biosphere is not inhabitable, Hades will disable Gaia and reboot the program once again. Now, fast forward hundreds of years, Earth has been recreated and humans exist again, except that they have no previous knowledge of the past. Because Apollo, one of the subordinate functions of Gaia, was turned off by the creator of the once evil war robots, a guy named Ted Farrow, that wanted to wipe any records of his misbehavior from human history.
Right.
So humans exist again, animals exist again, the machines are doing their jobs as like maintenance utilities, basically, but humanity exists in a primitive state. They organize themselves in tribes and they believe in these goddesses. They have no knowledge of, they refer to the ancient world as the metal ruins. They have no idea what's going on. So you play as Aloy that needs to save the world because these machines, they turn evil again. And they turn evil again because it is revealed in Zero Dawn that Hades, the program that was supposed to be the failsafe for Gaia, has received a mysterious signal that has made Hades go insane and take over the machines again. So these machines, they're shaped like animals, right? There are machines that look like horses. Right. There are machines that look like dinosaurs. There are machines that look like, serpents. There are all kinds of wildlife-like machines. But they have gone evil because Hades is telling them to do so. The first game ends with Aloy, traveling through, starting from her tribe of the Nora, starting east and going, across this land and reaching the city of Meridian. And there's this final battle at the city of Meridian where, and I'm summarizing here, Aloy defeats Hades at this huge tower-like structure called the Spire. But just when you thought it's over and that Aloy saved the world, it is revealed that this guy that helped Aloy throughout the first game, called Silence, actually saved Hades and put it in a box and fled with Hades. And the second game starts with you chasing after Silence, wanting to understand why Hades still exists. And most of all, you're searching for a backup of Gaia. Because Gaia, turns out, is also revealed in the first game, Gaia destroyed itself when it understood that the machines had been taken over by another entity again. And Gaia realized, and when I say Gaia, by the way, it's not a person, it's a computer program. All these AIs, they have gone self-aware. So that's the cool thing about Horizon. But Gaia figures if the machines are evil again and if these mysterious signals are coming in, you know what? I'm just going to destroy myself so that I don't do any more damage. But obviously, without Gaia, without a backup, Earth is just going to be destroyed by these machines again. So Aloy begins the second game, Forbidden West, traveling west toward this forbidden land in search for Silence, in search for Hades, and most of all in search for a Gaia backup, because she needs to save the world and she needs to have Gaia again so that Earth can exist once again as it once was. It's a very deep story that is very,
it really is.
Really
it really
tricky
is.
to summarize on a podcast.
Should we mention the relationship between Aloy and the scientist, Elizabeth?
Oh, yeah, please do.
So, what is Elizabeth's last name?
Sobek, Elizabeth Sobek.
So Aloy is actually a clone of Elizabeth's.
Yeah, there's also that,
which is kind of amazing and part of the story. And I don't know. I mean, I think it's just kind of an interesting. It's all part of the, I suppose, fail-safe system that's been set up to protect humanity if something goes wrong. And so Aloy is kind of this proxy for the scientist in the future, which is really kind of a neat story thread piece of it as well. And the story opens up with Earth slowly coming apart, basically, where the vegetation is starting to disintegrate, and the Gaia program, the backup needs to be found so that it can be restarted and everything can be recovered and fixed.
Yeah, exactly. So the second game basically begins with Aloy noticing that Earth is basically like eating itself. There's this blight that is taking over, like the vegetation, the trees, and the ground. And she needs to find a backup. Otherwise, everything is going to implode, basically.
Right. The vegetation's going away. People are starting to starve, all that kind of thing.
Yeah. So something that I want to say up front. So end of the spoilers. Something that I want to say up front is that this is something that I really appreciate about Horizon. The first game starts off and you don't expect that you're going to be facing these modern and very current issues like climate change and AIs becoming self-aware. Humans, usually men in power preferring to invest into war machines rather than actual action against climate change. Like, I was not expecting the original Horizon to go into that direction, and that was extremely cool. Like, the story of Horizon is not what you expect from Horizon. But something that I really love about this series, which there's even more of it in the second game, is the fact that you are discovering what happened before in the future through these data logs, through these pre-recorded videos. Like, you see facts and recordings from centuries before, you see them now. And it's like, I understand, like, it's so cool to find information that way and to put together the story like that. Because, like, you see in these recordings, and there's flashbacks in the first game, like, you see how Earth was before, and now you see what it's like now, where like everything is in ruin now, and trees have taken, nature has taken over these ruins of once great cities. And it's, I don't know, it's very neat in the same way that The Last of Us, for example, is also kind of neat. Like, you can see that a city was here, but now it's not anymore. And you can put together these bits of the story by exploring, by scanning with your focus, and finding these data logs and audio, like voice recordings around. So yeah, that the story of Horizon and all the different themes of cloning, AI, climate change. I think it's a very cool story. I think it's a very deep and complex lore that is also part of the reason why this game has grabbed me so much.
Yeah, I think that is really a big part of it, because the narrative aspect of it really is what has kept me going from area to area. A lot of times with video games, I find that the moments where the action stops and things are being explained to you are moments that I tend to get bored a lot of times and fall off the wagon with a game. But I think it's done extraordinarily well here by Guerrilla Games, where I go through a sequence where I've got some kind of quest and I complete it, and then there's some interaction between Aloy and other characters in the game, and you just kind of sit back and listen and discover things that I just have found more entertaining and better storytelling than in any game that I've played recently.
All right, so let's switch over to how we're playing the game and the two modes that you can enable. So Horizon Forbidden West is available both on PS4 and PS5. I am playing on PS5. I believe, John, you are playing on PS5 as well.
I am. I'm playing on the PS5, but I'm also playing with a remote play using my iPhone and a Backbone One, which is the controller that fits around the iPhone. Yes, yes. There's a couple of reasons for that, I guess, Federico. One is that I am still sporting a 1080p television. I have a 4K TV in my future, but I don't have it yet. And so it's even though I have a PS5 and the game looks gorgeous, even in 1080p, it actually looks crisper on the iPhone playing that way. And the other reason is just not to dominate the television, because I've been playing this a lot lately, and it's nice to use in handheld. I actually find, I find the text a lot crisper on the iPhone and easier to read, and just enjoy kind of sitting back. I've been in a real handheld gaming mindset lately. And I really love playing this on the iPhone. It really, with a good internet connection, it will drop frames and things from time to time, but for the most part, it's been very good. It's been really, really usable. So I've enjoyed doing it that way.
You know what could help you there?
What's that?
Wi-Fi 6.
I know. Well, yeah, and we talk about this next week on App Stories, and I mentioned Wi-Fi 6 there, and that's one of the things that's gotten me thinking about it, because I have an Orbi system that's still the Wi-Fi 5 version of it, and it's really good, and it's been great for a long time. But things like this are going to push me to Wi-Fi 6, I think.
So on PS5, you can choose between two modes. You can, and this is not uncommon for these kinds of games, but you can choose between a favor resolution mode and a favor performance mode. So with the favor performance mode, so first of all, I would say if you want to have a very deep and well done technical analysis of Forbidden West, go check out the Digital Foundry video on YouTube about this game. It's an excellent detailed look at what you can expect from a graphical and performance standpoint from Forbidden West. But suffice to say, it is very much an improvement over Horizon Zero Dawn, particularly I want to mention three things: the quality of the textures. When you enter photo mode and you look at stuff up close, the detail that you get on PS5 for this game is just incredible.
The second
one, it's amazing. Second one, the facial expressions and like the overall gesturing of characters during dialogue. It is so much more natural looking than the first game. And, in the first game, so many dialogues almost look like, the other NPCs were just staring at a distant place.
Yes.
But here they are much more natural looking.
And there's real body language involved too. I mean, you really feel it's a lot closer to something that it just feels more natural.
Yeah. And lastly, water. I really prefer how water looks in this game compared to the first one. It looks like actual transparent water. It looks like water, and it didn't in the first game.
Yeah.
But so you can choose between these two modes that let you play at 60 frames per second in the favor performance mode. So the game is super fluid, and it helps when you're dealing with an action game. But resolution is going to be somewhere in between 1080 and 1440p. I think it's not pure 1440p. It's not 4K, of course. But you're going to get that downscaled resolution if you want to have 60 frames per second on a PS5. If you want to favor resolution instead, you're going to get 30 frames per second, but a native 4K image. Now, I usually don't play action games at 30 frames, but I've seen the Digital Foundry video, and I've seen I've done the back and forth between the two modes myself. You get so much more detail on a 4K TV with the favor resolution mode. I don't want to say that it looks like a different game, but my God, it looks incredible.
Yeah, and I think the Digital Foundry really came down on the side of 30 frames per second to get that exact, that kind of texture and detail.
Yeah, it really looks fantastic, and it also helps because you see more distant objects, for example, right? Like you see more of a forest, you see more of of a rock that you gotta climb in the distance. Like, it's so much better looking.
Yeah, there's a lot less of that pop-in effect that you get when distant objects just
Exactly.
suddenly pop into view because they couldn't be resolved before.
Yeah. So personally, I have been playing in the favor resolution mode. I have a 4K HDR OLED TV from 2017 that still looks great. You know, I have to assume that at some point in the future, if Sony ever does a PS5 Pro, maybe this game will run at, you will be able to do 4K 60 in the future, but that's not possible right now. So even on PS5, you cannot do it. It'll be interesting to see if they do a PC version of this. They did a PC version of Horizon Zero Dawn that looks incredible on PC. But right now, this is PS4 and PS5 exclusive. So we'll see in the future. But right now, if you have a 4K TV, try the resolution mode and maybe switch between them, because you can also switch between them at any time in settings without restarting the game. So if you want to get through a particular busy area and take down a bunch of machines at 60 frames per second because it's more fluid, it's faster, do that and then switch back to resolution mode when you want to take screenshots or something. You can also do that. So the game itself, right? I'm enjoying the game, like I mentioned, for the story. The story is fun, is captivating. I connect with the characters. I want to see what happens. And that's usually a good thing to have in a story-driven game, right? You want to see what happens.
Definitely. And it's worth noting, too, that all of the difficulty modes here, there is a story mode, an easy mode, normal, and I think difficult are the 4 modes, right? And if you're just interested in the story, go for it, because it is a fantastic story. And if you don't necessarily like this genre of game, you might still get something out of the story playing in story mode.
So what I like about this game too is that it does a pretty good job compared to other open world games at balancing the amount of tasks and stuff and information that it throws at you. So this is still a very busy game in terms of there's crafting, there's open world, there's multiple side quests and errands, and now
lots of inventory, and
lots
all
of
kinds
inventory management. There's there's now you have salvage contracts if you want to harvest specific parts from specific machines. There's all kinds of there's a ton of things to do, and at times it can feel like a to-do list. But I think the game does a few things very well. The map of the game, I think it's really well done. I like how you can turn off or turn on various indicators for directions or on where to go next. And it's very well organized in terms of how you manage the inventory, how you can keep some things in your pouch, or they go to your pack, or they go to your stash. So it's this multi-layer approach to inventory management. And I also like how easily you can switch between main missions that advance the story, side quests that give you skill points or experience, and everything else that is errands or the combat trials and stuff like that.
Right.
So it's very well organized, and it doesn't feel, despite the busyness of it, it doesn't feel as busy as, say, an Assassin's Creed game or a Far Cry game from Ubisoft. And the combat is fun. Like I love finding out how to take down a machine and how to find the weak spot of the different machines that you encounter. And the more you go, I think I'm a little farther ahead than you, John, in the story and in the areas of the game. But later you start unlocking these things called weapon skills that are basically additional moves that you can perform with specific weapons. And they add a whole new element of strategy to what you're going to do when you encounter, say, for example, a herd of chargers, which are these or bristlebacks, for example. The bristlebacks are these bull-like machines in the world. Later, there's these kangaroo-like machines that are super tricky and hard to deal with. But it's the combination of like, do you want to approach them in a stealth mode and take them down with silent strikes? Or do you want to shoot them from a distance with your bow? Which type of bow do you want to use? Which type of arrow do you want to use? Or do you just want to go for it and drink a potion or something and go for melee combat, like one-on-one combat? Like, the multiple approaches that you have make the combat and the exploration in this game super fun.
Yeah, it's really neat. I like, and two, you can do things like if you're playing in a kind of a stealth mode, you can gather up rocks and you can throw the rocks and kind of distract the machines, and like maybe if there's a pack of 5 of them, pull them away one by one that way and attack them with stealth instead of trying to defeat all of them at once. It's just a lot of ways to approach the battles of this game, which creates it adds a variety that I think makes it a lot of fun, because there's different ways you can play depending on what your mood happens to be. Another thing, Federico, that I wanted to mention too is I think this game really shines brightest when you're outdoors, because a lot of it comes down to those beautiful textures and detailed environments that you happen to be in. But I think it just the mechanics of it work a little more smoothly when you're in wide open spaces. There's climbing in this game too. You can't climb anywhere. It's not, it's an open world game that's not entirely open world in the sense that, you have only specific places. There's some places you can't get to in a variety of ways, but it really does feel like a very big world. And I really enjoy kind of exploring the outdoors and going on those side quests that you mentioned, because there's a lot to see and do. What else should we mention? I guess there's a lot of ways to travel around the environment too. Campfires are the main one, or at least one of the early ones that you run into, where you have to expend I think they're called travel packs each time you move from campfire to campfire. But the campfires pop up here and there, you light them, and then it's a quick save point in a way to kind of travel between areas without really feeling like you have to walk and walk and walk for miles and miles between villages.
Yeah, you can also override machines and
right.
and mount a machine. I did the override for a charger, and now
I did too.
I can run on a charger, and it's cool. It's like having a horse in a Zelda game, but it's a horse machine.
Yeah, it's a robot. It's like a robot ram or something like that. It's kind of interesting. Yeah, really interesting. Well, this is a great game. I've really enjoyed it. I've obviously got a long ways to go. I'm a little bit behind Federico, but I've made a lot of progress in the last couple of days. It's been my go-to lately. I've still been playing a little bit of Pokemon Legends Arceus in the evenings, but most of my time has been on Forbidden West lately. So I guess that's it for this week, Federico. Enjoy your weekend. You're going to play a little more Horizon this weekend?
I'm going to play more Horizon, but I'm also going to start Elden Ring, I think. I'm going to do it.
Oh boy, I'm tempted. I have not this week paid much attention to the coverage of that game. I'm going to sit down and read some of the reviews and then decide what I'm going to do. So we'll see. I've got my hands full. I've got enough games as it is. You know what I mean?
I can relate to that.
It's hard to pass up something that everyone's saying is going to be the game of the year. You don't want to be left out of that conversation if it's capturing the zeitgeist of the moment in the gaming industry. Anyway, thanks for listening to the show. You can find me and Federico over at macstories.net. Federico is at Viticci on Twitter and Instagram. That's VITICCI. And I'm at John Voorhees. JOHNVOORHWS. Talk to you next Friday, Federico.
Ciao, John.